This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Sam Marshall. This show is live and broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We're also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. A landmark court ruling saw last week Robin Strassen-Ford entitled to be assisted by a willing qualified medical doctor to end his life. We unpack the ruling and look at the implications. The Africa Health Exhibition and Congress kicks off tomorrow. It's the largest health expo on the continent. We talk industry. And this Thursday, the EFC 39 will see heavyweight champion Brendan Groenewald and title contender Andrew One Gear van Zyl go head-to-head. They join us in studio. But first, let's get the day's news with Anine Domel.
Good morning, I'm Anine Domel. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. The Justice Ministry will apply today to set aside a landmark court ruling allowing a terminally ill man the right to assisted suicide. 65-year-old Robin Strassen-Ford died of cancer hours before a Pretoria High Court judge delivered his ruling. The judge has yet to give his reasons for his decision, which could have far-reaching implications. Right to Die organisation Dignity SA has meanwhile welcomed the appeal.
It cannot stop here. We would welcome an appeal, and we would really hope that this ends up in the Constitutional Court.
Port Elizabeth teacher Jade Panyateau's husband is expected to appear in court today. Christopher Panyateau was arrested last week in connection with her murder. His wife was kidnapped 2 weeks ago in front of her home. Her body was discovered a day later in Uitenhage. Panyateau was apprehended following the arrest of another suspect in the case, 31-year-old Luthando Siyoli. 4 men accused of killing Mozambican Emmanuel Josias are expected to be back in the Alexandra Magistrates Court. Last month, Josias, initially identified as Emmanuel Sithole, was stabbed in broad daylight in Alexandra in Johannesburg. His death shocked the nation after pictures of him being attacked and stabbed were widely publicized in the media. In Nepal, a shortage of helicopters is hindering relief efforts in remote areas. The government is currently using 13 helicopters, including 7 private ones, while the Indian Air Force is helping with 14 helicopters to cover the country's mountain terrain. The Interior Ministry says they need at least double or 3 times more. The official death toll has climbed to over 7,200 and is expected to rise. 109 tourists are still missing after a deadly earthquake hit the Himalayan nation last weekend. In the United States, 2 gunmen have been shot dead after an attack on an art exhibition in Garland, Texas. The gunmen were shot by police after they had wounded a security guard at the exhibition that features depictions of the Prophet Muhammad. This is the latest incident in which Western art depicting the Prophet has provoked threats or attacks. In January, Islamist gunmen attacked the Paris offices of the Charlie Hebdo magazine in revenge for its Muhammad cartoons. And in sport, Chelsea clinched their 5th Premier League title and the first in 5 years. The team secured the title with a 1-0 victory at home over London rivals Crystal Palace with 3 games of the season to spare. The winning goal was scored by the Belgian international Eden Hazard, who's been voted Player of the Year by his fellow professionals. Well, remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just search for Newsroom. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Sam, over to you.
Thanks, Anine. Now, today, Judge Hans Fabricius will give reasons on why he's ruled that the late Robin Strassen-Ford should have the right to end his own life with the help of a doctor. In a landmark court ruling, Fabricius ruled last week that Strassen-Ford was entitled to be assisted by a willing, qualified medical doctor to end his life, either by the administration of a lethal agent or by providing him with the necessary agent to administer himself. Unfortunately, the ruling came too late for the prostate cancer sufferer. But here to explain and tell us about the ruling is Elton Hart from the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic. Elton, thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Good morning, Sam, and thanks for having me.
The parties are expected back in court today. maybe from your insight, some of the reasons that you think maybe Judge Hans Fabricius will be giving in support of his ruling?
I think one first have to look, because this was an application that was brought by Mr. Ford based on the right to human dignity, to have his human dignity respected and also protected. So I think mainly the ruling will deal with the right to human dignity, which is one of the rights that's actually entirely protected in our Bill of Rights. And I think that right, in conjunction with the Section 36 of the Constitution, which deals with limitation of rights, will be worked in conjunction with each other, and the judge will explain as to why he decided to come to this ruling, and he will take the Constitution into consideration. And there's also where Section 39 of the Constitution say that our law should be interpreted and developed in such a state that it keeps track with the current notions in our society, the legal convictions of our community. So I think that is the three things that the judge would weigh up against each other, and obviously look at what's the legal convictions of the community, the public interest, what we call in Latin the boni mores, what is in good faith for the broader public. But there's a lot of things that people don't know, because is it lawful, is it unlawful? Because the appellate decision in 1968 and 1970, there was two cases where it said assisted suicide or euthanasia is unlawful.
Yeah.
In 1992, Clark versus Hearst, it was said it's lawful. Now, Streatham Ford's case, it says again it's lawful.
Yeah.
So you have two High Court decisions saying it's lawful. You have two Appellate Division or Supreme Court of Appeal decisions which says it's unlawful. So these two are clashing against each other. And I think normally what in our law, when a Supreme Court of Appeal makes a decision, then the rest of the courts needs to follow.
Yeah.
And if it's a constitutional issue, the Constitutional Court needs to confirm the constitutional validity of such a ruling that has been made. So here's a lot of things that come into play when you look at a lot of things that you have to.
From a layman's perspective, somebody who doesn't understand the law, it sounds quite complicated. Now, the MPA is appealing the ruling because it says it has far-reaching implications for constitutional rights and for the powers of the MPA. What type of implications are the MPA talking about?
The MPA, and if I can make a simple example, it's like, say for instance, if I am HIV positive, now I come to you, I say, Sam, kill me, because I know I'm going to die one of these days because I'm suffering. You can kill me. That's what the Ford decision now is telling. Like, if you are a qualified doctor, and one needs to make the distinction between passive euthanasia and active euthanasia. With passive euthanasia is when people are like on life support systems. Then they can just withdraw the medication and you die.
Yes.
And active is where you actually administer a lethal dose, where I say, Sam, I want to die. You are a doctor, you qualified. Please inject me or give me something so that I can do it myself. So that's the distinction that people, and one needs to look at, if one can be charged with murder, culpable homicide, then with murder there needs to be unlawful intentional killing of a person. And if something is unlawful, then one needs to just go look if there was an intention to kill this person. And when one looks at from a layman's perspective, then you have to look at, did this person reasonably believe that what he's doing is within the bounds of law? And with the Ford ruling running on the news channels now, people would think that it's reasonable, it's the right thing to do. So currently, a lay person will think, I can actually kill somebody to assist him not to suffer. And
so you have to be very careful.
And one needs to be very careful. And I think our Constitutional Court needs to jump on this one and give clarity in our law, because a lot of people might face criminal prosecution and some that doesn't know the law. So we need clarity on this issue.
Alton, but I've heard you mention that this is not the first time that we've had a positive ruling for. In actual fact, this is the second one. We've had two rulings against, two for. Why was this not an issue before? Why didn't it catch the media attention the way it has in this case?
Sam, this thing has been dragging in the legal fraternity. Discussions has been on. It's like nearly 2 decades of talks, running, lip service and those kind of things. And we have a serious loophole in our law regarding this issue. I mean, in 1999, then South African Law Commission, which is now the Law Reform Commission, already recommended that our legislation needs to be changed to allow and legalize this assisted suicide. So in 1999, imagine, it's 15 years down the line already. And I mean in 1992, Clark versus Hearst case, there was also similar discussions. The court made a ruling in favor of this. And I think our legislature was very, very slow on the burner here to actually do something and get clarity. They must just come out and say it's illegal or it's legal.
In 20 seconds, the Ethics Institute of South Africa's Dion Rousseau says the issue crosses various lines, including religious and philosophical ones. What are they referring to, very quickly?
It's like, normally, like, do you have morally, do you have the right to take your own life? Isn't it something that God has to decide about, or Allah or Krishna, whichever religion you follow? And I think that's what's bothering some of the religious institutions and also the ethical groups. So it's a fine line, but one needs to look also, if you look at morally, ethically, what is relevant currently in South Africa.
Alton, the MP is going to appeal. The Minister in the Justice Department is going to appeal as well. Their success rate on this appeal?
I think the court would necessarily grant them leave to appeal, to go to the Constitutional Court, because I know in the legal circles they want this to be decided by the Supreme Court of Appeal and then eventually by the Constitutional Court to give constitutional clarity if this thing is in line with the Constitution or not, so that we know. And then obviously people that has been charged with murder or culpable homicide since the inception of the Constitution can now come and review and say, but the Constitution was like this and it was never changed, so what I did then was always in line with the Constitution. So that's also the repercussions that one has to look at.
So this is an ongoing discussion. Yes. Alton Hart from the University of Johannesburg's Law Clinic. Very informative conversation. I'm sure we're going to bring you back to unpack it for us a little bit more, sharing his insights and thoughts there. Let's take a look at your tweets. Please remember to send us your views on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. And it comes from... Let's take a look very quickly from Lindiwe Skosana. It says, so Strasham Ford dies on the morning before the favourable ruling and his death is announced hours after the ruling. Okay, that's hashtag right to die, Lindiwe Skosana. And then we've got Shneshni Dubitle, who says, which court decided that a terminally ill patient has the Constitution, hashtag right to die? Does this not contradict the Constitution? How will this be regulated? Then from Shamaya, it says, is another justification of murder by the Northern High Court. Now you can legally kill your unwanted handicap. That comes from Shamaya. And then one from Karaba says, unfortunately, the law defines life in a different context when it comes to abortion and other legal matters. Hashtag right to die. Now, dogfighting is a type of blood sport that occurs in many countries across the globe, generally defined as opposing two trained dogs against one another in a ring or a pit for entertainment. But in South Africa, this activity is considered as animal cruelty and is illegal. Last week, 6 men were arrested in Ennerdale for their involvement in dogfighting. The National Council of the SPCA and the Police K9 unit raided an organised dogfight in Ennerdale. During the bust, 10 pit bulls, including a 3-month-old puppy, were rescued from the property, many with extensive injuries. 2 had to be put down due to the severity of their injuries. The 6 men will appear in the Protea Magistrates Court on Wednesday. Joining us from the Pitbull Federation of South Africa is Lindsay Reitenbach. Lindsay, good morning. Thank you very much for joining me here on Newsroom. Let's talk about this sport, because we're hearing horrific stories. There are arrests. What are we really talking about when we're talking about dogfighting?
What you're basically talking about is 2 pit bulls, or often many other dogs, but in most cases pit bull terriers, who are put into what they call a box or a pit, and they basically let go, and the 2 dogs tear each other apart. Most times the dog either is dead or gets severely injured. It just depends on the type of fighting. Your lower-end dog fighters, like your street fighters, most cases the dogs either are almost dead or dead. And with your higher-end fights, the dogs are conditioned or prepared weeks and months before the fight. They are fought. Once the fight is stopped and they're separated, the dogs will be taken home and treated medically, often not by a vet, but by the owner of the dog. Your lower-end fights, the dogs are either left to die and left alone in a veld on the side of the road, or the guys actually kill the dogs. They electrocute them, they drown them, or they beat them to death.
How can we make sure? And I know a lot of these dogs are not bought or bred for this sport. A lot of them, in actual fact, are stolen. How do we make sure that we protect our animals?
You know what? This is where there's a bit of misunderstanding. Your proper fighting dog is a line of dogs that is bred specifically for the trait of fighting. It's a line that is specifically dog aggressive, and it is traits that are continued. Your dogs that are generally stolen for dog fighting is your street fighters. It's children or youngsters that are walking through a neighborhood. They see a pit bull, they'll unhinge your gate, and they'll take your dogs. What we advise, the Pit Bull Federation advises, there are certain things that make the dogs more attractive to these dog fighters. One of those things is an unsterilized dog. Not only can the guys fight with these dogs, but should that dog win, he can breed with the dog. Another thing, although the ear cropping is not connected to dog fighting as such, a cropped-eared dog, because of the misinformation, automatically is assumed to be a fighting dog. So what will happen if you've got a dog who's cropped and unsterilized and is overly aggressive in your front yard? He's a target. You may as well paint a target on your dog. So we advise sterilize your dog. Keep your dogs in the backyard, away from the gate. If possible, don't crop your dogs. Don't make your location public. You know, often the guys will post photos of their dogs on Facebook. You actually put a target on your dog to be stolen for dog fighting.
Jeanette, we already have a really tarnished perception of pit bulls. We have the sense that they're super aggressive dogs, that they're the kind of dogs, as they say in Afrikaans, wat skrik vir niks. How does these kind of things, when you hear about dog fighting, how does that impact on the reputation of these dogs?
You need to remember that the American Pit Bull Terrier was bred to be dog or animal aggressive. He initially was a hunting, working farm dog, and then later evolved to a fighting dog. So he is naturally animal aggressive. However, the American Pit Bull Terrier is not ever supposed to be human aggressive. But unfortunately, the animal aggression and the dog aggression in these dogs is what makes them particularly favorable for dog fighting.
How common is dog fighting in South Africa at the moment?
It is, at the moment, is very common. You get different types of dog fighting. You sort of get your lower end dog fighting, which is your street fights where the kids will go and fight in a veld or a park and then leave the dogs to die. Then you move up to your sort of novice or hobbyist dog fighter, who will host an informal or semi-organized fight. Often it's in somebody's backyard, in their garage, in the back of a tavern, often in a pub. And then you get your higher level dog fighting, which is these organized dog fights and syndicates. And there you're dealing with high profile people, doctors, lawyers, magistrates. But those fights you hear very little about because it's incredibly secretive. It is the way it is organized is that most times you will never actually hear about it. The fights that you most likely hear about is the kids who have fought in the park, or there's been a raid because somebody heard something. But your higher level dog fights, it's incredibly difficult to bust, but it is quite common in South Africa.
Are we happy with the kind of convictions we're seeing? We are seeing slap on the wrist type of convictions, fines, but we're not seeing, or from my perspective, I haven't really read of anybody getting some serious jail time.
You need to remember it's only recently that there have been such significant dogfight busts. So we need to look at it and say, yes, the guys are getting slapped on the wrist. But if you look at the cases that have been busts, there has been some kind of punishment. However, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. But one also needs to remember the law doesn't necessarily protect animals as much as it protects humans, and there are quite a few loopholes. So yes, the convictions we're seeing don't fit the crime, but at the same time, we are seeing more prosecutions happening. And we believe eventually, as time goes on, it will come right.
Jeanette Erasmus, thank you very much for joining us. She is from the Pit Bull Federation of South Africa and talking about the recent arrests involving some dogs of the SPCA and the K9 unit swooping down on a dog syndicate in that area. Now, let's take a look at the front pages from around the globe, starting in Australia. The Australian talks about the boxing match of Sunday. Floyd Money Mayweather has refused to comment on a repeat bout with his Filipino rival Manny Pacquiao after a unanimous points decision kept his unbeaten record of 48 victories intact. And staying in Australia, the Daily Telegraph, after the excitement of her birth, the attention now shifts to what the princess will be called, with bookmakers tipping Alice and Charlotte as the people's favourite. Thought I heard Diana there as well. And finally, in the US today, 2 suspects were killed after they opened fire Sunday in a parking lot outside a provocative contest for cartoon depictions of the Prophet Muhammad. Let's take a look at what's happening around the country today. We start in Johannesburg, where 4 men accused of killing Mozambique national Emmanuel Sithole are expected back in the Alexandra Magistrates Court. Then the Pretoria High Court Judge Hans Fabricius will give reasons for his order of assisted suicide in the case of late Cape Town advocate Robin Strasham Ford. And then in Port Elizabeth, Christopher Paniatu is expected to appear in the Magistrates Court in connection with the alleged abduction and murder of his teacher wife, Jade Paniatu. Let's take a break. You don't go anywhere.
South Africa is the 3rd leading country globally in TB infections.
We have 9 million new cases occurring globally, and 30% of those cases are occurring in the African region.
And there are 2 broad kinds of drug-resistant TB, so to speak. The one is MDR TB, and the other is XDR TB.
To ensure that everyone who's diagnosed with TB is tested for HIV.
There's grossly inadequate funding for TB. Vaccine, drug and diagnostic research. We need a lot more.
Join me on Health Talk every Saturday morning between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. as we unpack current health stories.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom. Thank you for choosing to stay with us. Now, Africa's Health Exhibition and Congress 2015 kicks off tomorrow at Gallagher Convention Centre in Midrand and will go until Thursday, the 7th of May. It's the continent's largest healthcare exhibition, which is expected to provide a platform for Africa's industry to meet, learn and do business. 7,000 healthcare professionals are expected at the exhibition and Congress. General Manager of Healthcare Professional Networks and Contracting and MedScheme is Dr. Mike Marshall, who is one of the speakers at the upcoming Health and Conference exhibition. He joins us from our Cape Town studio. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us. What can we expect? It's the biggest exhibition Congress scheduled in the African continent. What is the kind of dialogues? What will you be talking about? What are we focusing on?
Good morning, Sam. I think a lot of the discussion will be on affordable healthcare and, what can be done to make healthcare sustainable and affordable to members of medical schemes and in general. So I think there will be discussions possibly on legislation. There will be discussions on alternative reimbursement models. That's something that I'll be addressing. There will be discussions on some of the structural issues that are challenging healthcare. So I think it will be quite a broad-based discussion and debate, as you know, there are many challenges, as we know, with the affordability of healthcare. You mentioned the word challenges. I'm asking for your insight here, Doctor. What are some of the challenges we're facing on the African continent in that achievement of affordable healthcare? But in general, give us a sense of what, as a healthcare practitioner, professional, you're experiencing on the ground. Well, if we look in Southern Africa, for example, there are currently 8 million lives covered in private healthcare, and there's been very little growth over the last few years other than for GEMS. But there are actually about probably an additional 6 or 7 million people that are employed or are linked to someone that's employed that don't have cover. So the main issue there is affordability, and I think that's universal across Africa. And I guess some of the challenges around affordability, relate to the legislative framework in which healthcare operates, and is the legislative framework aligned to providing an environment where healthcare is affordable, and there are challenges around that. I think there are also some supply-side issues as well. the affordabilities of hospitals, doctors, specialists, and what kind of innovative models can come up to address those sort of issues. Perhaps one could also look at subsidies, from employer subsidies. There are a number of other issues as well, like fraud is probably something that needs to be addressed. Transparency of data, coding. There are numerous challenges in terms of creating an affordable environment.
In South Africa, constitutionally, healthcare is a basic right. We've seen the Minister of Health being quite public about affordable healthcare. He's been quite public in the past about private institutions charging exorbitant amounts. How does exhibitions, conferences of this nature get the dialogue going amongst the industry professionals, amongst the game changers, amongst the captains of industry within the sector?
Well, I think these issues are discussed openly. So, for example, in the legislative framework within Southern Africa, I think there will be discussions, for example, on the minimum benefit package, which is perhaps very hospice-centric or aligned to covering hospital benefits, where in fact many people, particularly those on the lower income, are more interested in a primary care type package. I think there will be discussion on the legislative framework around for example, mandatory membership. So if we had more people that joined that were well, rather than waiting that they were sick, the contributions would come down. So these sort of things are debated. There will also be debates on how should one reimburse healthcare service providers. For example, the fee-for-service system, which is the current standard methodology of doing it, where you're basically paying for volume and not for value, is something that really needs to be re-evaluated. And I think there's going to be a lot of discussion and debate as to how that can work and what are the systems that would need to be in place and how healthcare service providers can become aligned. I think also there needs to be discussion on different models and innovation in healthcare. So, for example, are our hospitals really set up to cater for an environment that perhaps is in a more low-cost environment, or are they more suited towards, the bells and whistles and luxuries? And is there scope to perhaps, build hospitals that are more focused on a low-cost environment? So there's a whole plethora of things that will be discussed and hopefully debated quite extensively.
Doctor, we're going to leave it there, but thank you very much for joining us from our Cape Town studio. That's Dr. Mike Marshall. He's one of the speakers at the upcoming Health Exhibition and Congress that starts at Gallagher Convention Centre here in Midrand, just outside of Johannesburg. Let's just take a look at your tweets. Please remember to send us your views on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Let's take a look at them. It's Denver, who says, why are some newspapers refusing to name a husband, yet the Sunday Times and Twitter sphere has ID'd him? That's in relation to the teacher, Jade Paniatu, whose body was found. Woman who is king says at Jade Paniatu, what shocking revelations. Why kill someone? Why not just leave them if you're unhappy? That comes maybe a very important question. Greg Lewis Smith says, more smoke, more fire, still too many loose ends. Hashtag Jade. And Ngama says, we will soon be forced to do background checks on the men who want to marry our sisters and daughters at this rate. And hashtag Jade, hashtag Annie. And then one from Jane Stratham says, saddened at the turnaround in the hashtag Jade Paniatu story. Shocked, in fact, will it be another televised trial? And I think it's going to be an interesting question just to take a look at that. Okay, now the United Nations Third Global Road Safety Week kicks off today and will go until Sunday the 10th of May and has been dedicated to child road safety. The campaign, hashtag Save Kids Lives, is calling for action to save children's lives on the roads around the world. The World Health Organization, the WHO, states that car crashes are the leading cause of injury and death among children and young adults. According to statistics, 4 children are killed on South African roads every day, with many others being injured, according to South Africans Against Drink Driving is very preventable. Cara Smith, founder and director of South Africans Against Drink Driving, joins us from Pietermaritzburg. Cara, thank you very much for joining us here on Newsroom. Let's talk about the activities that's been arranged in support of the UN's 3rd Global Road Safety Week. Kara, good morning. Can you hear me? Okay, we'll try and connect that link a little bit better. She is talking to us via Skype. That, of course, is Kara Smith, founder and director of South Africans Against Drink Driving. We'll have a chat to her about the United Nations 3rd Global Road Safety Week that kicks off today. Now, today's tweet of the day comes from DJ Mia. We are champions. We led since the beginning, and that's hashtag Chelsea Champions and hashtag Chelsea MC. A lot of people are not going to be happy about that one. The viewer pick of the day today's picture of the day comes from Insta Sydney. It says Chelsea, the 2015 champions. It's in relation to the English Premiership. Now let's take a look at what's happening on our Newsroom Facebook page today. The Pretoria High Court Judge Hans Premiership will today give reasons for his order of assisted suicide in the case of the late 65-year-old Cape Town advocate Robin Strachan Ford. Then Boko Haram fighters killed older boys and men in front of their families before taking women and children into the forest, where many died of hunger and disease, according to freed captives. And 2 gunmen opened fire yesterday at an art exhibit in Garland, Texas, that was organized by an anti-Islamic group and featured caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. The gunman was shot dead at the scene by police officers. You can find all of these stories and more on our Newsroom Facebook page, or visit our SABC website at www.sabc.co.za/news. We take an ad break here in Newsroom. You don't go anywhere.
You ask? This is who we are.
We are technologically driven.
We are unashamedly Afrocentric.
We advise you not only on legal matters,
but on health issues as well.
We bring imagination to life.
We celebrate arts and culture and lifestyle.
We tackle life challenges head on.
We dig deep. We probe. We question.
We invite you to take a view from our house,
as we tell it without fear, separating fiction from factual.
We are the SABC News Channel.
All news, all global, all the time.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. The Justice Ministry will apply today to set aside a landmark court ruling allowing a terminally ill man the right to assisted suicide. Last week, Robin Strachan Ford died of cancer before a Pretoria High Court judge delivered his ruling. The judge has yet to give his reasons for the decision. Port Elizabeth teacher Jade Panyato's husband is expected to appear in court today. Christopher Panyato was arrested last week in connection with her murder. His wife was kidnapped 2 weeks ago in front of her home. Her body was discovered a day later in Uitenhage. And the Johannesburg Metro Police are monitoring the situation in Soweto this morning. Hundreds of protesters are blocking certain roads in the township south of Johannesburg. This has resulted in massive delays for motorists travelling into the city. Residents are allegedly protesting because of a housing dispute. Remember, you can find all of those stories on our Newsroom Facebook page. Just search for Newsroom. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Sam, over to you.
Anine, thank you very much. For the past month, South Africa has faced the ills of xenophobia. Many South Africans and people abroad have shown their support for foreign nationals who have been attacked, injured and murdered. People have used social media platforms to show their grievances against xenophobia. This has enabled many people to voice out their support for foreign nationals and condemn these attacks. The Department of Science and Technology has launched a new mobile app to fight xenophobia. The app seeks to provide an online platform for South Africans to pledge their support for the campaign against the attacks. Today we are joined by Derek Kotze, who is the CEO of MLab Solutions, the company that created the app. He is joining us from our Pretoria studios. Derek, good morning. Thank you very much. Talk to me about this app and how it's going to work.
Good morning. So it's a web application at the moment with the focus of bringing it to the different mobile platforms as well. But the focus has been to try and get as broad a reach as possible through any internet accessible device. And the idea really came from the Minister's office asking for a rapid response in a way for South Africans to voice their support for against xenophobia and against violence against foreigners within South Africa. So a very simple application, simple solution where South Africans can go to www.weareafrica.mobi and simply go there and pledge their support.
How different is this app in terms of the way we as the consumer user will interact with it? How different is it from Facebook and from the Twitter campaigns we've seen on social media?
So it's a specific platform that's trying to pull in all of these different social media platforms. On the solution, you can see what is happening under the We Are Africa hashtag to kind of see all of the different actions that South Africans are taking. But this one has a very specific purpose in trying to get South Africans to at least pledge, provide some information to us that can be analyzed, and then potentially allow us to reach out to them and say, like, within a specific region, these are the activities that are happening, this is the support groups that are out there, become part of it and voice your voice as a South African against what is happening.
From an app perspective, apart from the pledge, what are the other interactive features on the app? Am I going to see, for example, information around surveillance, reports related to xenophobic attacks? You were talking about the difference between the two social media platform and this app. Anything else that will be provided for on this app?
So we are continually working with the department and also with different departments, state departments, to try and figure out where this application should go. So what we want it to be is to be a very organic response to what is currently happening. So as the violence starts tapering down and we start seeing more positive output coming from South Africans, we want to make sure this platform speaks to that as well. So currently there is an opportunity for people to report potential incidents. There are obviously ethical and legal considerations around what constitutes evidence and how we manage that. But we're starting to evolve it now a little bit more to the positive side where we can say, what is your opinion? What we've seen specifically coming from the application is that a lot of people want to voice their frustration, want to voice their fears around this. And so we're creating a platform and changing the platform to allow them to actually provide some input, give us some ideas of how we can manage this better.
Derek, some of the people that has been interacting with the app has criticized it for having a race option when they register on the app. Clear that issue for us very quickly.
Correct. So originally the idea was to try and gather as much demographic information so that the channels and the communication can be adapted and the messaging can be adapted to be the most accurate and most effective as we could get it. And so as with many forms that generally request types of demographic information, the race was included. But we responded very quickly, and the department responded very quickly when these concerns started being raised on social media. And within a couple of minutes, it was removed, and the decision was made that specifically here, it's not that relevant.
Very quickly, for anybody who wants to go into any kind of store to download the app, what would they have to put in Google, or what would they have to download?
So currently go to www.weareafrica.mobi. That will be the key channel for engaging so that it's as broad as possible. And then the applications will start appearing on the stores this week, and it will most likely be under the Africa Pledge application.
Very good. So thank you very much from our Pretoria studio, CEO of MLab Solutions. A little bit earlier, we tried to connect with Cara Smith, who's the founder and director of South Africans Against Drink Driving. She joins us from Pietermaritzburg, and it's all in relation to the United Nations 3rd Global Road Safety Week that kicks off today and will go until Sunday, the 10th of May, and has been dedicated to child road safety. Cara, thank you very much for joining us from Pietermaritzburg. Let's quickly talk about the activities that's been lined up in support of the UN 3rd Global Road Safety Week.
Basically, what they have asked the children to do is to record their trips to and from school and what concerns them. So in Pietermaritzburg, we have 17 schools who have told us about their concerns, written their stories, and said what they would like to be done. And then on Thursday the 7th, these stories and plays are going to be given to dignitaries and hopefully ministers. So that's in Pietermaritzburg. Trees have been wrapped. General information has been given to the media. Then in Cape Town, together with Global Road Safety Partnership South Africa, Child Safe and Department of Transport, they are running some campaigns in primary schools and also at Red Cross Children's Hospital, where they are certainly telling all parents to buckle up their children.
Cara, let's just get a couple of things clear around the organisation and the work that you're doing. It is called the South Africans Against Drink Driving. Why drink driving and not drunk driving?
Basically, we actually are still called drunk driving, but we talk about drink driving because any alcohol affects driving skills. So that's why the only safe limit for driving is 0.
How do we involve children through the hashtag Save Kids Lives?
Basically, if they go onto the Save Kids Lives 2015.org, they can sign the declaration. Everybody can sign the declaration. They can do the pledges. They can write the stories. They can tell the ministers their concern and just get it to the local ministers of health, transport and justice. Because like we were talking about this big road safety, or the big health week in Johannesburg, they're concentrating on Ebola where they really should be concentrating on road safety, because the main cause of death in a lot of people in Africa is road crashes. And we would like the hashtag Say No to Road Carnage, because it's absolute road carnage. In the same time that the 7 people died of xenophobia, which is absolutely terrible, we lost 56 children and we lost about 630 people in total. So people are not concentrating on the road carnage, and they are not seeing the economic effect of this, let alone the emotional effect on family, the cost to the health care. And so we're really needing people to say that we have to save kids' lives by really concentrating on the strategy that World Health have recommended.
Cara, we've seen legislation being implemented over the last week or so that enforces road users to, if you have a child under the age of, I think, 5, you need to have a car seat. How do you think that's going to have an impact on these deaths that involve children?
I don't think it will make any impact at all unless the Department of Transport and traffic officers and the police actually enforce it. South Africa have a 1 out of 10 poor record in enforcing seatbelts. So just changing a law will not make any difference. So we're appealing. South African police have to buckle up by law, and yet they are not buckling up by law. Ministers have to buckle up by law. They're not. People are not buckling up. So we're appealing to the traffic officers and the police to actually enforce the laws. Changing something like even a drink driving limit, changing it to 0, will not work unless it is enforced. So at the moment, our alcohol level of 0.05, less than that, is actually best practice, and World Health says it is fine. We don't need to change it. If it was enforced, if the people were tried very quickly, if their licenses were suspended when they were found guilty, And if they were jailed, if they killed or severely injured.
Cara Smith, we're going to leave it there, but thank you very much for talking to us. That's Cara Smith, founder and director of South Africans Against Drink Driving, joining us via Skype from Pietermaritzburg. And she's reacting to the United Nations' third Global Road Safety Week that kicks off today and will run until Sunday, the 10th of May. And it's dedicated to child road safety.
One is the current champion with everything to prove. The other, a former champion with everything to fight for. It's the clash of the heavyweights. EFC 39. The newly crowned heavyweight champion, Brendan Groenewald, will defend his title for the first time against the former heavyweight champion, Andrew van Zyl. Will Groenewald silence the critics and prove why he is the best? Or will van Zyl once again rise to the top and claim what he feels is rightly his? Plus, the former light heavyweight champion Kitty Andratsky returns to the hexagon to face off against the hardest-hitting man in the organization, Tumelo Maputa. EFC 39, Thursday, the 7th of May, Grand West, Cape Town. Tickets and broadcast information at efcworldwide.com.
Ooh, it's going to be one tough battle. This Thursday, the EFC 39 will see heavyweight champion Brendan Groenewald and title contender Andrew van Zyl go head-to-head. To talk to us about the upcoming fight, we are joined from our Cape Town studios by Brendan Groenewald, and in studio with me is Andrew van Zyl. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here in Newsroom. Brendan, let's talk about the fact that you're going into this fight as a champion. What are the kind of pressure you're facing? Because you're fighting a man who's a former champion. He's been in the thick of things. He understands what he has to do, and he's almost got nothing to lose.
Look, I don't think it's a case that he's got nothing to lose. He's got everything to gain. He's felt what it's like to be a champion, and I'm sure he's hungry, to get back into the number one spot. I've got a lot of respect for Andrew. He's a really cool guy. At the end of the day, come 7th, we're going to see whose hand gets raised, and I'm sure the best fighter that makes the least mistakes will be crowned EFC heavyweight champion. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good one.
Brendan, you're going into this fight. You've got so much to say. There are critics that are watching this bout. This is an opportunity for you to put your hands up and say, I'm an undisputed champion. I've fought the best. Inside the camp, how's preparations going? Where are you emotionally? Where are you mentally? How ready are you for this fight?
Yeah, I think I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be. My camp was quite good. We focused on quite a few things that I sort of saw as weaknesses. So, I've increased those. In respect for Andrew, I think that he deserves the opportunity to fight the best Brendan possible, and I'm pretty sure that he's upped his game. Myself and Andrew are the top guys in the division, bar Ruan Potts that's come back now. So, we three astute MMA athletes and fighters, and, I'm sure getting the opportunity to put it together and really prove who is the best is what everybody's kind of called for. They've now got the fight between myself and Andrew. I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be. My mental state, I'm good, I'm strong. It's always been my strongest suit, mental strength and sort of mental fortitude, being able to push through. Everything's done. There's nothing really more to say except for, 7th of May, we're going to get in there and bash each other around a bit.
Andrew, let's bring the conversation to you. Some really nice words from Brendan, but this is a dog fight between two of the top dogs. You've tasted the championship before. Just how hungry are you?
Yeah, as I said, I don't prep any differently for any other fighter, and Brendan's obviously on top of his game coming into this fight, and I've prepared myself accordingly, and I think it's going to be a great one, man.
Emotionally, what is the camp? How do you prep for? You don't prep any differently, but when you're fighting the champion, there's an extra gear you've got to go into. I know that's your nickname, One Gear, but there's an extra level you have to go to, because you're fighting somebody he's the champion, he wants to stay the champion, you've tasted it, you want it. As you said, you've got a lot to gain.
Yeah, our championship rounds are 25 minutes as opposed to 15, so that extra bit of cardio is going to actually go a long way. Obviously, if the fight continues that long, it's a heavyweight fight, so guys are throwing heavy hands, and those could be the difference between winning and losing. But I'm in it for the long haul. If it necessitates that, and I'm ready to go, man.
You're on a bit of an unbeaten run at the moment. What does that do for your confidence going into a fight?
Again, it's I've beaten guys that Brendan already beat, so I think we're pretty much on a level pegging. I've got the right mindset. I'm ready to go.
Let me bring you into this conversation quickly, Brendan. How difficult is it? I know you. This is what you guys do. This is what you do on a daily basis. You're prepped to fight the best. But when you face a guy like Andrew, who's been on a bit of an unbeaten streak, his confidence is a little bit up. Yes, you're the number one, you're the champion, but you're walking in the ring with somebody who's saying that, you know what, at the end of the day, I can beat you. I've beaten everybody you've beaten, and you're the next person in line.
Yeah, look, I mean, I expect nothing less. I expect Andrew to bring a huge game. I expect him to be brutal. I expect him to be aggressive. It's what you want. You're not ever going to get to the top well, it's not chess. So, yeah, it's not pitter-patter. He's going to bring a heavy, hard game. I expect it. I expect nothing less. Andrew has everything to gain. He's got the title to get back, and I've got everything to keep or retain. I need to retain my title. That's it. We've got everything to fight for.
Well, gentlemen, we prepare ourselves as you guys get ready to rumble in the jungle. That is champion Brendan Groenewald joining us from our Cape Town studio, and title contender Andrew Wangear van Zyl. As you know, these guys are going to go head-to-head. For more details on where you can find tickets, if you're interested, you can find out. All you've got to do is log on to Google, go to the EFC website. It promises to be the fight. I was going to say the fight of the century. That already happened on Sunday. This is the fight of Africa. Go and check it out. Today we play out with the anti-xenophobia song from Young Artists Unite, a movement of emerging artists who are using their voice and music to send a strong message against the violence against foreign nationals. Newsroom is broadcast live from our studios here in Auckland Park in Johannesburg every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. We also stream live on YouTube at that time, with the show available on demand on our YouTube channel. This is SABC Newsroom. You've been watching. We love it in the morning. Say no to xenophobia. Ciao, ciao.
Peuple africain, tous ensemble, nous sommes frères et sœurs. Alors stoppons. Arrêtons la xénophobie.
You ask?
This is who we are.
We are technologically driven.
We are unashamedly Afrocentric.
We advise you not only on legal matters,
but on health issues as well.
We bring imagination to life.
We celebrate arts and culture and lifestyle.
We tackle life challenges head on.
We dig deep. We probe. We question.
We invite you to take a view from our house.
As we tell it without fear, separating fiction from factual.
We are the SABC News Channel.
All news, all global, all the time.